Question everything.
SethTalks.
SethTalks is presented by Rosslyn Foundry, full-service brand and business alchemy.
To understand the role of a single letter, we need to look at the massive scale of human history. Humans are 2.5 million years old. The current species, the Homo sapiens, they are close to 300,000 based on different estimates. We started speaking about 50,000 years ago. And we started our first efforts to write about 5,000 years ago. And if we look at the entire time scale, we will come to the idea that this recent invention of writing was the real trigger, was the real engine that pushed humanity forward. Writing is the medium with which humanity is transferring the experience, the knowledge, and all of the achievements of humanity. It is the building block of modern society. When printing was invented in China about 1,000 years ago, and in Europe about 600 years ago, it sparked the era of enlightenment, which humanity had never seen before. Every technological leap was happening in a shorter and shorter period of time because we found a way to save, to preserve, and pass down our experience. My name is Setrak Makurchan. I'm a graphic designer, teacher, and a researcher, and I've been working for more than 2 decades with visual information. This is the first in a series dedicated to art and science of Armenian typography. My goal is to share the wisdom which I got from the great masters of the past, and my experience which I gained through this couple of decades. And I would like to create a more advanced point for the next people to come and continue the work which actually started centuries ago. When we talk about visual communication, we actually mean a field where different specialists, different professionals are working in collaboration. Researchers are studying the market and defining the goals. Photographers and illustrators are creating the visual imagery. Graphic designers are building the overall visual concept, and layout artists are arranging the pages. In this complex machine, there is a tiny element that remains invisible but crucial, and that is a letter. When we are reading a text, our eyes are just gliding through the lines from line to line, and we are seeing not the letters, but the content. Our brain is given a task to visualize it, to get the arguments, to understand what it is inside, but never get into the detail of every single letter. So the successful typeface is the one which remains invisible. If during the process, when we read a text, we suddenly stop at some letter and we concentrate on it and start thinking, what is this doing here? What this actually means? Why is this so much different? This serves as a distraction. It really distracts us from the main content. It distracts us from the main goal, which is understanding the text. And this means that the text failed, the typeface failed. As the greatest typographer of 20th century, one of the greatest typographers of 20th century, Adrian Frutiger, once said, if you remember the shape of the spoon which we used during eating a soup, that is a bad spoon. You must never concentrate on the shape of the spoon, but on the taste of the soup. That's why that's actually what typeface does. Another brilliant modern typographer, Jonathan Hoeffler, in a video series on Netflix, was saying that people often mistook him with graphic designers. And when they discovered that he was not a designer of the magazine itself, but a designer of the typeface, they got confused, saying that you are like designing only the letters. Letters are like oxygen. Why do you even need to design the letters? And he concludes saying that we are not painting the walls, the type designers, we are providing the paint for others to paint their walls. And one more quotation from 20th century, one of the greatest theorists of typography, Beatrice Wardy, who was saying the typeface needs to serve as a crystal goblet. If we have a goblet which has got a lot of decorations on it, a lot of figures, and all the junk all around, you do not see the wine which is inside. The typeface must be as transparent transparent as possible. First, to see the wine itself, it must not disrupt. It must show the content, which is the wine. It needs to be like a crystal clear goblet, and that's what typeface actually does. Creating the font is a very delicate process. It is very close to jewelry art. You need to have proper, very deep understanding of composition and understanding of how in a composition white and black actually interact. A typeface designer needs to calculate how his typeface will be visible in different mediums, at different scales, at different angles, at different distances. So how it looks on a far billboard and how it looks at a very close distance, how it looks on a printed paper and how it looks on a digital screen, how it looks on the distance of a reading some 30-45 centimeters away from us, and how it looks from hundreds of meters away from us. And if the designer fails any of these features, the typeface will lose its legibility, its readability, its noticeability. As we embark this series on Armenian typography, on typography as a whole, and specifically Armenian typography, we need to understand the main challenges that Armenian typography actually faces throughout these years. We are living in a condition when this market is not developing through decades. For decades, it's been in embryonic state. There are single individuals who are working in typeface design, and there was no formal education for people to learn how to create Armenian typefaces and how to work with Armenian typography as a whole. So we are in a condition when there is a closed loop. Few good fonts which we can utilize on daily basis. There are few good fonts because there are totally not enough number of professionals making these fonts. There are not enough professionals making fonts because the market remains in embryonic state. It is not developing. Being a designer is not profitable. It is not profitable because fonts are distributed just freely and no one cares about a copyright. And this ultimately brings to condition when there are few number of usable fonts which we can use. So this is a dead end. This is a loop we are twirling in. And I believe altogether we need to break this chains and come out of this condition and make our path forward altogether. Writing an alphabet is not a monument of marble. It is constantly developing organism. It's a body which is evolving throughout time, and we need to study in its condition today in a state where it has come to passing through all of the centuries and see how it can develop into the future. So let's do this all together. Let's start our journey, guys. That's all for today. See you next time.
Question everything.
Question everything.
SethTalks.